So a lot of people I'm talking with, they're asking what's happening in real estate market? Why this is so crazy? Oh, this is nasty speculators speculating real estate market just like stock, and these investors flipping properties and increasing the price. Oh, these nasty realtors, they are putting people into bidding war and inflating the prices. Well, at the surface, it may look like it is, but there's so much behind the scenes. Let's find out. What is up, YouTube? This is your host Yasin Nizami, and today I'm going to continue the discussion that I started in my previous videos about this whole dilemma of our financial system. And I have been trying to explain this to my audience, but sadly, on average, I can guess that maybe 10% of the wider population understand what's happening in the financial market and how it is impacting our financial well-being. I put some posts on my TikTok videos and I've got a massive response in terms of comments, and you can see a lot of people were confused, what does it mean? Why is it impacting real estate market? Why it was not happening before pandemic? Why is it so different now? What happened? Like, we always had demand and supply issue previously, right? Why is it so different now? This is what I'm trying to assess, and this is what I'm trying to explain to my audience, that this is the intended consequences or the byproduct of the Bank of Canada's monetary policy. Now, there's a different debate whether this is good or bad, like what choices our central banks had before the pandemic in order to stimulate the economy. That's a different discussion. I'm not saying whether that decision was right or wrong, but what I'm trying to explain to my audience is whatever policy that they choose to implement, it has a massive impact on our financial well-being, especially when it comes to real estate. I am in real estate, I'm a realtor, so I'm seeing why these prices are inflating. Of course, there is a demand and supply rule, but where this demand is coming from, this is what we need to find out. And in my view, this is the fundamental reason, because we are seeing a lot of liquid money pumping into the system. And if you watch my previous videos, I've been explaining that the monetary policy that Bank of Canada or other central bank like Federal Reserve or ECB in Europe, they're doing the same thing, because they have no choice but to stimulate economy by making lending more easy, reduce interest rate, take the residential mortgages off balance sheet of central banks to make it more easy to lend more money. The dilemma of our financial system is that it is driven by debt. The more debt you take, the more money comes into the system, and that's how the economy evolves. So what I'm trying to explain, guys, is all these stimulus packages and what the governments are doing in terms of spending. Where does money come from? The money comes from the central bank. The central bank prints money. They literally just print money and they buy government bonds. Now, if you don't know government bonds, Google it. You will understand, how the bond market works. But in reality, or in essence, bond is basically a debt that the government is selling, and Bank of Canada or central bank is buying that debt. In return, they give them cash, they give them money, and that money is being spent on different projects, stimulus packages. Basically, you're putting money into the system. When a lot of cash is flown into the system, of course, it liquidates the cash, right? It devalues the cash. So if you have $100,000 in your bank with risk of inflation, well, first of all, when it happens, when a lot of cash is being put into the system or into circulation, there is always a risk of inflation. What is inflation? Inflation is if you're buying something with $10, you may not be able to buy the same thing tomorrow with $10. It may cost you $12. That's inflation. And when these money printing system works, there's always a risk of high inflation. You can Google all the articles in financial system, you will see there's a high risk of inflation on the horizon. every economist is talking about it. So what's going to happen is when the inflation rises, if you have cash, that cash gets devalued. Even with 2% inflation target that all the central banks are targeting for, that means your cash in the bank is being devalued 2% every year. So that's a guaranteed loss. If you're keeping your reserve in cash or even bonds, that's a guaranteed loss, right? And this is where people are getting crazy and they are putting money into some sort of asset because the asset is appreciated. When a lot of money put into the system, that money has to be spent. We are in a lockdown situation. Nobody's buying, traveling, spending money on goods and restaurants and vacations and all that stuff. Nothing is happening like this, right? So where this all money is being spent is spent on assets, real estate, stock market, cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, precious metals, gold, silver, platinum, whatever. Like, this is where we see a massive inflation in terms of asset valuation or asset price growth. And real estate is no different. A lot of people are saying, oh, this is demand and supply. We don't have inventory and there's too much demand. But where is the demand coming from? Our borders are locked, right? Immigration at their lowest level. Very limited people coming in from other countries. Who's driving this demand, right? So you need to understand that the financial system that we are living in, it has a lot of flaws, for example. And the money that is being printed is just being printed in the system. There is nothing behind it, right? Back in the days, they have to put gold reserve behind it, but right now there is nothing behind it. So the money is being printed. And the reason why we're not seeing the currency devaluation against US dollar is because US dollar is also being put into the system by Federal Reserve. So all of these major banks, ECB, Federal Reserve, Bank of Canada, they all are doing it at the same time. And they will always follow the same rules at the same time in order to control the currency fluctuations. So you will see, as soon as the Federal Reserve announced that they're going to spike the interest rate and stop the money printing process, Bank of Canada will follow immediately. They have to. They cannot run in silos in that perspective. So that's the motive of my video, is to educate you guys, my viewers, to understand it's not simple demand and supply thing, right? It's much behind the scene happening. And if you are not using your cash is getting devalued, you're losing buying power. So put your comments down below, question down below. I'm interested to know your perspective. What you think about what's happening in the real estate market in Canada today, and how this economy is being moving forward, and what do you see as risk coming forward in terms of inflation, or if the real estate is bubble as you believe is going to burst. What are your options? What do you think? What are you going to try? So put your comments down below. Let me know what you think about it. I'm happy to hear, and I will see you in my next video.